Yo, I just took my AP Stats exam.
Dude, how do you think you did?
Well, on that one question, I put that the population was the sample of 27 textbooks.
Don't you mean the population is all such textbooks?
Well, no. That the population was the 27 textbooks in the sample that were examined.
You clown! You're wrong. You just lost points.
Well, at least I put X bar in the hypothesis.
You mean mu. You put mu in the null hypothesis, right?
No, I just said I put X bar.
You clown! You're wrong. You just lost points.
Well, the good news is, I wrote a list of all the conditions and assumptions that were supposed to be met.
Did you show all the conditions that were being met, or did you just write that list?
Well, I put the list and the check marks next to them saying that they were met.
You clown! You're wrong. You just lost points.
Well, I did graph the data.
You explained the graph in context, right, and referred to it in your conclusion?
No, that would take so much time and effort.
You clown! You're wrong. You just lost points.
Well, I did graph the data.
You explained the graph in context, right, and referred to it in your conclusion?
Well, no, that would take so much time and effort. I just doodled it kinda, and then am hoping that the grader is gonna understand the linear relationship that it shows.
You clown! You're wrong. You just lost points.
Well, the good news is, I wrote the formula for the t-statistic, which is x bar minus mu all over s, right?
Did you put the s in the denominator over the square root of n?
Well, no, I just put s down there. The sample size doesn't matter.
You clown! You're wrong. You just lost points.
Yo, what's that?
Is that another portal?
Dude, are we in Minecraft?
I guess so. Well, after I wrote the test statistic formula for t, I made sure that I wrote out all the calculator steps and buttons that I pushed, and then I copied down exactly what I saw on my calculator screen.
You show all the numbers plugged into the formula?
Well, no. I just had the formula, and then I wrote all the buttons I pushed, and all the stuff that I saw on my calculator screen.
You clown! You're wrong. You just lost points.
Well, I knew enough about the problem to use a normal distribution for the distribution of my test statistic, the t-statistic.
So you wrote that the distribution was approximately normal.
Well, no. I said it was a normal distribution. I didn't use the word approximately. I just wrote normal.
You didn't say it was approximate? You said the distribution was normal, thereby implying that it was exactly normal?
Well, yes. I said it was a normal distribution.
You clown! You're wrong. You just lost points.
Yes, well, after saying it was normal, I then continued with my hypothesis test about the mean.
Wait, you said the distribution t was normal?
Well, yeah. After all, every test statistic follows a normal distribution, right?
No, actually only a z-statistic follows a normal distribution. Your t-statistic follows a t-distribution. And those are two different distributions.
Well, they're close enough. After all, they're both symmetric and bell-shaped. They should be interchangeable.
You clown! You're wrong. You just lost points.
Well, anyways, I got my p-value, and it was 9.2, so I wrote that as my p-value.
You wrote that the p-value was 9.2? Didn't the calculator have a negative number after that?
Well, I guess it did. It had 9.2x negative 4, but I figured that it meant that was something extra, or that there was an error. So I just wrote that the p-value was 9.2.
That e means that the calculator has changed to scientific notation. Your p-value is very small. In fact, it was 0.00092.
Oh, well, it's all the same thing.
You clown! You're wrong. You just lost points.
Well, since I thought that the p-value was really big, I figured that we should not reject the null hypothesis.
So you mean that you wrote that you would fail to reject the null hypothesis? That's great. Even though you used the wrong p-value, at least you got the conclusion right.
Well, no. I didn't exactly say to fail to reject the null. I said that I accepted the null.
You clown! You're wrong. You just lost points.
I also said that there was a 9.2% probability that my null hypothesis was correct, and that there was a 9.2% chance that the mean was as stated in my hypothesis. I suppose that I gave my conclusion an interpretation of my p-value.
Interpretation of the p-value is flawed. The p-value tells us that the probability of seeing these results or results even more extreme, assuming that the null hypothesis is true, is a conditional probability.
That's the same thing. Whatever.
You clown, you're wrong. You just lost points.
Oh my gosh, Dylan, is that a rift? I also said there was a 9.2% probability that my null hypothesis was correct, and that there was a 9.2% chance that the mean was as stated in my hypothesis. I suppose that I gave my conclusion and an interpretation of my p-value.
Your interpretation of the p-value is flawed. Thus, the probability of seeing these results or results even more extreme. Assuming that the null hypothesis is true, it is a conditional probability. That's the same thing. Whatever. Likewise, your conclusion was not really in context. A statement about the mean and the null hypothesis could be made about any such hypothesis. There is nothing specific about the problem in your conclusion. Well, I talked about the mean. That should be okay.
You clown, you're wrong. You just lost points.
Well, I think I did okay overall. Have you seen my 90% confidence t-interval? I used my calculator correctly by going to stat, test, then t-interval, and I entered everything correctly.
Well, it seems you did a good job on your 90% confidence t-interval. But what did you put for your conclusion?
I put that I am very sure that there is a 90% probability that every interval from 0.00081 to 0.00095 will result in the correct population parameter.
You clown, you're wrong. You just lost points.
It should be. We are 90% confident that the interval from 0.00081 to 0.00095 will result in the true mean amount of books. Context in a 90% confidence interval does not mean a 90% probability.
Alright, so what, I got things wrong here and there. No biggie. I'm sure I did fine on my AP exam. I'm not worried about it.
Lucky to get any score at all. I wouldn't be surprised if your score ended up being a negative number. School practice over and over again. But I have good news. I hear the circus is hiring,